Alright, you can see we've done just about 3.5 minutes, and we're getting close to a boil here. We're going to shut this for just a little bit, and probably in just a few seconds we ought to have a boil going. We're getting real close. I guess technically we're at a boil now, but not quite at a rolling boil. That'll give us just a little bit. And there it's starting. So we got bubbles after about 45 seconds. Technically I'd say we started boiling around 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And now just about 4 minutes, a nice rolling boil. Okay, now that our water's been boiling for a while, and it's really boiling now, we could take and use this for dehydrated food. You could make about 2 bags of dehydrated food with this at 2 cups a bag, 2 very large cups of coffee, 2 very large cups of hot cocoa, or a quart of soup for 1 person. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the water, put it on a safe rest. You don't want to put that down near anything plastic or whatever. It's very hot. You want to be careful when you take the pot off. You don't spill any water. Boiling water does not feel good when it's poured on you. So, powering down this stove and packing it away is just as important as properly setting it up. So the first thing you want to do is you want to stop it with the stopcock up here. Turning this off allows the flame to continue to burn and to burn the fuel that is actually in the fuel line. And we want to get that out of there before we pack it away. And this takes a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds, for the flame to extinguish itself. So we'll wait just a little bit to do that. And then we'll take, once that's out, and we'll take the simmer control and we'll turn that off once all the fuel is burned out. And the flame is now out, so we're going to take and shut this off. Now, this stove is going to be extremely hot right now, and the last thing you want to do is try to fold it up. You're going to burn yourself. Even if you don't, you're going to stick a warm or hot stove back into the stuff sack and it's going to melt it. So we don't want to do that. So what you want to do is give your stove about 5 to 6 minutes to cool down. So we're going to leave you here for a couple minutes, and when the stove is cool, we're going to come back and show you what to do next. Well, the stove is cooled down now. It's probably been 5 or 6 minutes since we took the water off and properly turned off the stove. Everything is nice and cool to the touch. A couple things I want to show you before we break down the stove. First off, I want to tell you, never do this anywhere next to a tent. No way, no how. Tent comes in contact with this, I don't care how flame-proof, flame retardant it says it is, your tent is going to burn. It's going to melt, it's going to burn. If anybody's inside it, bad news. Don't get it close to a sleeping bag. Don't get it close to anything that you don't purposely want to burn. Secondly, never light up a stove like this in a non-ventilated area. What does that mean? It means a house, a building, a garage. Unless you've got the garage door open, unless you've got all the windows open, these things will put out a lot of carbon monoxide, and not good. So always be in a very open, well-ventilated place. Now, I had mentioned that I didn't particularly like to use the windscreen that came with the stove. This one's actually just a little bit heavier, but these can be bought for about $10, $15. And they unfold. A little aluminum, very lightweight. Very easy to set up, and you can just set this up like so, and put a pot here in the middle. Very effective at keeping out the wind. You know, obviously the open end would be where you've got the fuel line. They also come with clips on the side, so if it's a very small stove, you can overlap them and make it smaller. So I kind of like these. This comes in its own little stuff sack. Very nice, and again, not very expensive. All right, now let's take apart the stove. Well, I'd already folded in the simmer control handle. The next thing we want to do is remove the bottle from the fuel line. Now this can be a little tricky because you have to wiggle a little bit, and there will also be a little bit of fuel that will come out of there on occasion. So I like to keep a rag handy just to wipe it up, and the fuel doesn't smell that bad, but it doesn't smell that good to be having on your hands all day. So we release the bail and then sort of wiggle this out of here. We may not get any fuel come out, but we may as well. So that comes apart like this, and you go, oh, okay, we're getting ready to go. Well, we are getting ready to go, but remember, we still have pressure in this canister. And we do not want to keep that pressure in this canister. So what we're going to do is take the rag. Now, I did have a little fuel spill out around here when I pulled out the fuel line, so we're just going to kind of wipe that off. Now, what you want to do to release the pressure is, I like to take a rag, and you want to do this away from your body, okay, and away from your eyes. I wear glasses, so I have an advantage here. You know, you just kind of turn it away from you, look the other way, and loosen the top of the bottle. You can actually hear the psst, the pressure coming out. So we release that. And again, you don't want to have a Coleman lantern or anything flame going around while you're doing this. You want to be away from any sort of flame or any heat source. We're going to take this out, and I'll just like to wipe this down a little bit. There will be a little fuel on everything. And then take the pump and just pump it a couple times. It'll blow a little fuel out of there. And we'll do this several times, and then wipe it dry. And then the rag will air out pretty nicely, and you won't, you know, in just a little bit you won't even smell it. So make sure the stopcock is folded down on this. Now we're going to take and seal up our fuel once again. Remember, we laid down the knob or the screw cap in an area where it wasn't going to get dirty. So we screw that back up, get it nice and tight till you hear a pop, and just wipe it off. Make sure you don't want this fuel spilling around in your pack or anything. So we're done here. Now to the stove. Nice and cool, no problem. We're going to fold up the flame cup and the fuel line assembly. Now, you're going to fold the legs so that the V's of the legs all point clockwise. And you get all three of those sort of folded in like that. I actually did them backwards. So the V's should all point clockwise, as you can see they're doing so now. So, and I'm going to take the bail here, get that inside, and hook that around the post, and then take and snap these into place. Like so. Fairly compact. Again, there's other stoves that fold down to about half this size. Okay, so we have our stuff sack here. We're going to put the stove back in the sack, or the bag, depending on what you want to call it. Going to take the instruction manuals and the windscreen. Once you learn how to use a stove after a couple of times, I don't really think you need to take the instruction manuals with you anywhere. The igniter, I always like to keep away from the stove in a separate little kit, but you can store it in here, and for today we'll stick it in there. Put the spare parts back in there. You never know when you'll need those. And put the pump back down in. Shake it down in the bag. Zip it up. And there you have it. So, stove, once you know what you're doing, very easy to use. Compact, light, weighs about 14 ounces. Along with the pump. Liquid fuel, your bottle. There are cheaper ways to go. There are smaller ways to go. But as far as a good high quality stove that gets the job done, which will boil and do just about anything else you need to do with it, the MSR Dragonfly, in my opinion, is a very good product, and at Boy Scout University we do like it. So, hope you've learned a bit today about the MSR Dragonfly and on liquid backpacking stoves in general. and we hope you put this knowledge to good use in the field. Thank you for joining us today at Boy Scout University, and be sure to visit us online at www.boyscoutuniversity.com. Thank you.